and welcome to The Truth Will Not Be Silenced, the show that allows people to be seen, to be heard, and to be human. I'm your host, Melissa Woodfork White. In today's episode, we will talk about navigating investment success with Frank Turner. Sharing our stories allows us to encourage, inspire, motivate, uplift, and help people. There will be a special surprise at the end of the show. Be sure to listen all the way through for the details. Our special guest today is Frank Turner. He is co-founder of Solaris Capital and Verde Group, with combined assets of over $500 million in private credit and medical lien funding. Before co-funding his business, he was a managing director for a Louisiana-based credit hedge fund. Prior to that, Frank was the portfolio manager for the MIG Diversified Fund at MIG Capital. And prior to MIG, he served as the Consumer Innovation Executive at Bank of America in Charlotte, North Carolina, managing firm-wide initiatives across various consumer banking divisions. He holds 2 patents in financial product design. Frank began his career at Goldman Sachs as the structured finance and portfolio credit groups. He ended his tenure as the treasurer of a $20 billion alternative investment franchise, responsible for over $4 billion in financing, credit facilities, and synthetic leverage transactions. Frank has over 21 years of experience as a financial services executive. He graduated cum laude with a BBA in finance from Howard University in 2000 and currently serves on the board of visitors for the Howard University School of Business. Frank is going to share with us about navigating investment success. Hi, Frank. Welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Melissa. Thank you. Happy to be back. This is an awesome opportunity, and hopefully my words will illuminate some stuff for the audience.
All right, let's do it. Our first question today, and thank you. Our first question today, as a financial services executive, how do you evaluate potential investment opportunities and risks to achieve financial growth? I want you to walk us through this short process from the beginning, the middle, to the end.
Thank you, Melissa. So we focus primarily at Solaris Capital on providing capital to specialty finance companies. And so in that process, we seek to identify unique business models that are underserved from a capital standpoint, meaning that many of the other institutional investors may or may not be aware of this opportunity or may have not created a paradigm to evaluate these different business models. And so we always begin with looking at scarcity. So we look for something that is unique in terms of its proposition to the marketplace so that their product is differentiated, such that this is something where the unique nature of the financing and most of our products are related to lenders, people that are providing capitals to other, and then we do what we call lender finance, where we are providing capital to the lender. So most of the time, these companies provide some type of loan or some type of factoring of a receivable, which is giving an advance on the account receivables for a business. And we look for these different institutions to be differentiated from the regular mortgage and credit card, small business lending products in some form of fashion, such that we're having a little bit of a moat, if you will, just by the product design. So we start with it needs to have something unique about the business model. From there, due diligence across many investments, whether it be the financial services industry or consumer or any of the very industries that you have, there are some commonalities to the due diligence. And so, we look for management. Management is key. It's kind of like in real estate. People say location, location, location. Well, in a small business, medium-sized business enterprise, it's the team, it's the team, it's the team.
Okay.
The integrity of the team, having the right background, to be able to execute the business model in a succinct and efficient way. Being forward thinking. Today, everything is about how you can use technology.
Mm-hmm.
You hear the word artificial intelligence, but way before artificial intelligence, it's just having the expertise within the management team to be able to use the current technology suites to have the most efficient execution of the business model, as well as being able to look forward and think about what those infrastructure needs are from a technology standpoint so that you'll be able to grow the business and scale the business while utilizing technology in a proper fashion. The third thing that we start to look for in due diligence is it's the boring part, but it's the very important part
Mm-hmm.
of we need to have a sound financial information collection and dispensing from the company. It's very difficult to invest in a company in which the balance sheet income statements are in disarray.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a sound control process as it relates to how they do expenses. They don't, they have not invested in the personnel, or in some cases today, outsourced someone that has leading financial expertise to make sure that their taxes and the way that they are accounting for revenue recognition makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
So we look for a differentiated business model. The team has to be exceptional. The team has to be forward looking. And then we look for a sound control environment as it relates to their financials. And then from there, we're looking for a company that's a fit for the type of capital that we can provide. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think this is very important for people to understand. All investors are not the same. And so going to a group that may provide, say, debt capital, which is 9 times out of 10, the first investment that we make will be on the debt side.
Mm-hmm.
We typically do equity investments after already being involved with a company. And that's because in the lender finance space, everything revolves around making a spread. So we want to give the company capital. We want them to then deploy that capital out into the marketplace. And then we hope that they generate a spread off of the cost of capital that we provide versus the cost of the capital of their lending product. And if our cost of capital as a private equity hedge fund investor base is not appropriate for a company, we actually advise them to go to other capital sources.
Okay.
Many times we start the investment process with a hope that we will be able to invest
Mm-hmm.
with our investors. And then what we say is, hey, look, we want to be your advisor either way, whether we make the investment or not, because we want your company to improve.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes we actually partner with other investor bases after going through the due diligence process to make sure that the capital that they need to grow the business is actually being the capital that's deployed.
Wow, that is amazing. The thing that caught my attention when you said that uniqueness, the innovation, the team, and then hopefully that if they've met all the checks and balances, they'll be able to generate that exponential growth. Well, I have to ask you this. Have you had a situation where you partnered, not partner, where you did make the investment and they weren't able to return on the investment?
Unfortunately, it's part of the business, right?
Okay.
No one in the investment business is going to bat 1,000. A recent situation for us is actually turned into a successful investment, but it had some roadblocks and a few dips in between. So we are the supporter of the largest current lender to payroll deduction
Mm-hmm.
loans for government employees on the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico,
Mm-hmm.
where our company is based. It's a group that I can use their name. It's a public name called Triangular Capital. And so we were their initial warehouse provider for a credit facility in which we provided them capital, and then they then took that capital and made the loans to the government employees, and then worked with the government such that the payments on those loans from the actual customers that are government employees actually was deducted from their payroll.
Okay.
Well, that sounds great, right? You know, you
Mm-hmm.
got a product, it's different. You don't have to worry about what we call propensity to pay in the consumer finance world,
Mm-hmm.
where what is the likelihood that somebody actually sends you the money after they borrow it, right? That's a big component of it. And it's a fancy way of saying that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But with the payroll deduction, when you get paid, we get paid.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like a very good, unique product. It was in Puerto Rico, so there was a lack of capital available for this particular product, actually,
Mm-hmm.
because of the complexities of dealing with the Puerto Rican government. And so we were able to be excited about the differentiation of the product, as I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned before,
Yes.
and then the credit risk mitigant, in that we would be able to draw payments directly from their payroll. Well, practice is a little bit more difficult than concept sometimes. So, in the situation with Triangular, there were a number of municipalities in which we work with their employees that they wanted to not send the payments on an electronic basis.
Oh, okay.
And there was a promise operationally before we deployed the capital that there would be a certain percentage that would be electronic. And
Mm-hmm.
that did not come to fruition. It
Wow.
actually was a much lower percentage than we expected. And so for a number of months, there was just kind of drips and drabs of payments, not because the consumers didn't pay, but
Mm-hmm.
because the municipalities they work for were stuck in their ways and very slow to adopt the electronic
I
ACH that
see.
we asked for from the Triangular Operations team. And
Mm-hmm.
so we ran into these issues. We were receiving payments late. And so we had to go out and actually do a PR campaign to get basically the financial secretaries of each one of these municipalities to sign on to our system. And in the
Got you.
meantime, we had to waive some of the protections we had for ourselves in the facility
Mm.
because this was a structural problem that really was not the problem of the company. It really wasn't the problem on us. It was the breaking of a promise related to a stakeholder that was an operational stakeholder, but not a financial stakeholder in the transaction.
Got
And
you.
so eventually, over the course of 6 months, through that PR campaign and a couple of, lattes and coquitos and whatever we gave these different individuals that managed the finances at these municipalities. And there was actually 60 plus municipalities
Oh
that
my
we have to deal
God.
with, right? Because it's every equivalent of a county on the
Right.
island. We eventually got that to 90+%, which is the percentage that we
That
expected.
is amazing.
But that those are the things that happen. It's not always the things you hear about sensationalized in the news. It
Mm-hmm.
just could be some operational aspect that did not go as planned. And
Right.
then you have to react to that, and then you have to, to use a colloquial kind of down south Bible Belt term, you got to give them some grace,
Yeah.
right? We could have been like, oh, it's messed up, let's foreclose. But no, the product was good. The
Mm-hmm.
team did everything that they could. They did not foresee the pushback from the different financial secretaries at the municipality level. And this was the first time in a long time that we were using this particular payroll deduction exemption
Yeah.
in partnership with the police association, who actually held a license. And so, there was grace on both parts and some cooperation to get things right.
That is amazing. I think that it is important to not just what you just said, all of the fashionable things that we see in the news about investing and so forth, but you made it real for us by sharing that experience of how it may not look the way you plan it. It may not go the way you plan it, but you have to make those adjustments. And like you said, that Bible would give them some grace or have some grace. That is wonderful. So my next question for you, Frank, is what forecasting methods do you use to predict future financial performance? And what measures should be in place to mitigate potential risks to navigate investment success? Now, you already shared with us a situation that you guys didn't predict that would happen because you already had it set up. So I want you to share with us how you can what you learned from that, the takeaway, so that you can forecast to use um, improved or more innovative methods to make sure that those measures are in place for that potential financial risk.
Great question. Great question. Macro and micro kind of predictability of outcomes and credit
Mhm.
is something that we've been working on across different enterprises, just away from my company all the way back to my days at Goldman and Bank of America in the banking space. I actually
Mhm.
was part of Bank of America's innovations in this space. I brought up propensity to pay. That's a big part of it, but
Mhm.
you have to take it a step back into the macro kind of marketplace first. So there's certain best practices related to various business models. So, an example would be, in the consumer space, we mentioned getting electronic payments and not
Mhm.
receiving payments by mail. This is a basic best practice. All of your consumer lenders that are going to be able to attract capital will need to be able to have the majority of their payments, coming electronically for them to be able to attract capital. So
Mhm.
there's a number of micro things, which I would call operational excellence,
Mhm.
that will be the drivers of outcomes as you try to predict whether or not a business model will work from a standpoint of being a lender in our space. On the macro side, I think this is the thing that if we all were able to get this right all the time, we would be up there in the Warren Buffetts of
Yeah.
investors, because the political and the global economic environment has been so dynamic
Mhm.
over the last 20 years that we're seeing what we would call black swan events, every 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
So a big part of what we try to do is to understand what are the vulnerabilities of the business model from a scenario standpoint.
Mhm.
So as it relates to, the company we mentioned in payroll deduction,
Mhm.
we're still reliant on the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico to be in a state of what we call stationarity
Mhm.
in their willingness to, continue to operate as normal. We have to look at the hurricane risks. We have to look at the power outage risk. And we have to look at those situations and say, what was the 1 month plus the event, 3 months plus the event, 6 months plus the
Mhm.
event, different scenarios that played out, both in the past
Mhm.
and then what we know about the current environment and the current operational soundness of the business and all the stakeholders that make that business work around it. So those are kind of the bottom up things. The
Okay.
top down, we do a lot of analysis on what is the state of the borrowing base. So, what's the state of the consumer? Or how are they looking in terms of income? Is the product appropriate? We do a lot of underwriting on the different lending products that we provide capital to on whether it's an appropriate product for the state of the consumer or the state of the small businesses from a financial soundness standpoint on a macro basis. Is it too expensive? Does it have features that are predatory, that will not be able to last? Will the regulators look at it in a favorable light
Mhm.
or a negative light as things progress in different scenarios? Are we in a recessionary expectation over the next 3 years, it normally we forecast no more than 36 months out.
Okay.
Um, and so you're looking, are you going to be in an inflationary recession? Are you going to be in a growth with inflation? Are you going to be, no growth and stagflation? How does that then affect the different borrowing bases, capabilities to navigate the propensity to pay on this product? And is the product actually serving a working capital need that's accretive to their financial flexibility? The reason that we have lending products is so that the borrower creates some, less friction in
Hmm.
the way that they're able to manage their personal three-statement income, balance sheet, and cash flow statement, right? When you
Hmm.
think about them as a little business on the consumer side or actual business on the small business, medium business enterprise side. And so we spend a lot of time looking at this scenario analysis on a micro and macro basis. And then we kind of look at it from a top down basis and
Hmm.
try to predict what will be a percentage of, negative results that are possible and have some type of, a statistical viewpoint plus or minus of that prediction. And we use a lot of, basically forecasting techniques from old school regression with multivariate type of equation to just pure scenarios that we kind of use to try to break the model, kind of what's the break even and then what different stages of loss will occur, assuming different economic variables have changed in such ways.
Oh, that's a lot, Frank. That is a lot,
Well,
but
it's
very,
a lot of
very,
work. It's
yes.
definitely not a one man show. I tell you that.
Right, right, yes. And you did tell team, 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 team. You did tell us that. So, Frank, you've given us a lot of gems, a lot of knowledge. You've broken it down for us. You made it accessible to everybody who watches and listens to our show. I have to ask you, how does sharing your story today help others? Share the work that you have done or do in addition to what you've already shared. Tell us about your current and future plans.
Well, I believe exposure is everything. I got in this business. I got my hometown sweatshirt on this morning from a small area in the U.S., but not small for Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew nothing about investment banking. I did not have readily accessible to me a direct mentor in this space. So exposure and hearing these concepts from whatever media or whatever sources you can, if folks have an interest of this at any stage of life, I think is very important because that's how I got interested in the business, and I've been very thankful that I've been able to navigate. Now I think my bio said 21. I keep getting older. That's why I shaved my beard off. Uh, it's now 25 years. We have I think we have our reunion coming up this year at
Okay.
Howard. So
All right.
25 years. So in any case, to
Yeah, yeah,
answer
yeah.
your question, we've been involved in a couple of new things. We're going to be hopefully raising our first fund
Hmm.
in the medical receivable space, where we provide working capital to lawyers and doctors that help out injuries and auto accidents
Hmm.
that are waiting for those cases to settle. So we have a 7-year track record with one of our originators that I actually co-founded myself. And
Hmm.
so we're going to be, doing a joint venture with them to create an asset management product around those working capital loans that are being provided. And we have a very, dynamic, that's my new word. Everything is a dynamic base of folks that we work with, of all ilks, but they're very dynamic.
Yeah.
And we're very excited about the performance of that over the last 7 years and want to bring that to the institutional marketplace.
Hmm.
So you should look out for that. The particular company for the fund name will be PIP, which is Personal Injury Partners. So we're excited about that. We're working with a major Christian television network
Okay.
on providing some capital to them. And we'll be going out to a few of our existing investors to fund that product. It's actually in play with one of our larger backers out of New York right now. And then, I'll be visiting our alma mater next week for Charter Day
Yes.
and doing some business development along with my board of visitors meeting for the Howard University Business School. And I'm excited about that as well. And then we have a very unique foundation that we were helpful in creating the genesis for on the island, which is
Mm-hmm.
the Puerto Rican 5G zone foundation. And what they do is we look at all of the different connectivity for advancing telecommunication in environments that are rural or environments that are islands like our own. And we work with the technologists and we work with educators to basically, come up with best practices, come up with projects that are needed, and then help them find funding for those different projects or bring expertise to existing projects that are funded. And Gail Nolan is our director for that, and she's doing a fantastic job.
Well, I just want to say congratulations on all of your successes, your past, present, and your future endeavors. I am so proud to say that you are my HU Bison brother, doing great things, and as you said, dynamic. So with
We got
that
to keep
being,
it dynamic.
yes. So with that being said, tell everyone how that they can reach out to you, contact you, get in touch. Frank,
So,
you froze?
yeah, I think I froze a bit on my end. Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
no worries.
Yeah, so on the Solaris Capital side, you could always reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
Frank Turner, very easy to find. Solaris Capital. As it relates to some of our other portfolio companies, there's not a direct way that I'm willing to share
Okay,
a
you're
large
fine.
media, but if you get to me, I can help with anyone who's interested in any of the things that I mentioned today on the call. And I prefer LinkedIn as the way to get in touch with me.
Sounds good, Frank. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your expertise and your experiences with us.
Thank
So
you so
next,
much, Melissa. It was a great conversation as usual, and the truth will not be silenced. I love it.
yes, thank you. Next week, we'll continue to discuss and share about real life experiences, both personal and professional, stories that need to be shared, seen, and heard that makes us human. The truth will not be silenced. To be seen, to be heard, and to be human. The surprise. If you like or leave a positive comment about our show, you'll get a shout out. This includes businesses, products, services, organizations, and events. Following the link in the show notes lets Buzzsprout know that we sent you and help support our show. Buzzsprout is the best way to launch a professional podcast. Want to ask a question, be a guest, or subscribe to our podcast, The Truth Will Not Be Silenced? Click on the show link. Thank you so much for joining us.